Ohayo minasan! Welcome back to Our Life. I realize I've not played the last 3 DLC for the Step 3 for Our Life, Beginning and Always. As Step 4 constantly approaches, I do want to get these done and just put these out there for you guys. Obviously, we're in the middle of playing the Great Ace Attorney. That's a huge part of the channel at the moment, and I thank you all for the support. But you guys also gave so much support for Our Life, Beginning and Always, that I want to continue playing the game. So let us go and continue our lovely DLC. I think we'll do Serendipity. Light filtered down through the leaves of an oak tree overhead, casting speckled shadows on the sidewalk all around. Ooh. What happened? Hold on. How's that, guys? I don't know why that did that. You flicked it away with your thumb, slowing a stop in the cool shade. The day had you out and about in town, in no hurry to go anywhere in particular. You had just gotten something to eat, and there was nothing planned for the rest of the afternoon. Your moms were at work, and Liz had left early in the morning to do something. You had no idea what. You took out your phone and idly noted the time when it started to jingle. The screen lit up in your hand. Speak of the devil, Liz messaged you. Come home ASAP. Before you could even begin to question why, your phone went off again. Nothing bad, but you have to see this, so come back already. And with that final message, you were left only slightly less confused than you were before. You hadn't seen much of your sister lately. She had been acting strange for days, always shutting herself up in her room. Which wouldn't be so weird if at the dinner table if she didn't suddenly start smirking to herself over nothing. The rare times you did see her, she would sneak you expectant looks like she was waiting to be asked what was up, but all your questions led nowhere. She'd answer you with a put-upon sigh, proclaim that she was busy, and tell you that she would have to talk about it later. No hints, no guessing. Whatever it was, she was determined to keep it a secret. Maybe now, you'd finally find out what it is. As you did an about-face on the sidewalk and started heading home, you received more texts. To your surprise, the name that popped up on the screen this time was Coves. Did you hear from Liz? About some urgent thing you have to see? She messaged Cove too. You weren't surprised. Liz teased him about it, but he was like family. However, you were struggling to understand how he fit into Liz's surprise. Yeah, Liz sent me the same thing. His reply came only seconds later as you waited to cross the street. I figured she would. Are you going to see what's up? I'm walking there now. Me too. Glancing up, you saw the light had changed and the walk sign while you were busy texting. You hurriedly wrapped things up, texting Cove a quick goodbye before crossing the street. It was fine. You'd be seeing him later anyway. We're both heading to the same destination after all, goddarn. Not expecting any more messages, put your phone away, walk without having to worry of tripping over the curb. Thankfully, it was a short trek home. Soon enough, you were walking up your street, the familiar face of your house already in view. Thinking of what might be waiting at home, I'm excited or I'm worried. I'm gonna be worried. The sight of your front door had you swallowing uneasily. Liz said it wasn't anything bad, but in the back of your head, you couldn't shake that faint worry. Lost in your thoughts, you almost didn't see who was walking further up the street, Cove. Even from the back, the bright sea green color of his hair was unmistakable. You quickened your pace to catch up to him, the scuff of your shoes loud against the pavement. He heard it instantly, not missing a beat as he turned towards you and slowed his step in sync.
Hey!
Hey, Blue! Hi, here we are at my house, like almost always. At that, Cove gave you a wry smile. Here we are. It sounded almost like a question, wondering why the two of you had been summoned here. Any ideas on what Liz wants us for? You shook your head. The situation was out of character for your sister. Anything could happen. Well, I guess we should go in and find out. Taking his cue, you grabbed your keys and opened up the front door. Cove trailed behind you as you entered. You nervously stuck your head through the doorway and peered about, not sure what you were looking for or looking out for. We know nothing because this is our sister. From the entryway, you could see Liz pacing across the living room, her smiling gaze intent on her phone. You had caught her just as she completed a turn. Behind you, the door clicked shut. The second she heard it, her head darted up to your direction, her features lighting up at the sight of you and Cove. Ah, you arrived, and together too! That's perfect, just perfect! She flashed you a radiant smile. You could almost see her limbs vibrating as she was poised to pounce. Cove raised an eyebrow at your sister's bizarre behavior. You're in a good mood today. Liz only hummed playfully in response. Liz's eyes narrowed with mischievous glint as she let out a little cackle. So lately I've been trying hard at work with a little plan of mine, and you two get the honor of seeing it all come together. Here it is. Surprise! She lifted her hand in the air to present. The very comfortable but completely mundane living room. In the resulting silence, you and Cove glanced around again, but then made eye contact with each other. His face mirrored your bafflement. Then suddenly another voice rang out in the room.
Surprise!
Oh my god! Ah! Cove flinched at the shout, his shoulders shooting up to his ears. Laughter came from your sister, as well as from the other side of the room. Shiloh is back! Your head whipped around just in time to see a familiar figure with a freckled face and a purple cap springing up from behind the back of the couch. Cove's mouth fell open, recognition immediately coming to him. Shiloh! Hi, Cove! Hi, Blue! Shiloh greeted the two of you so casually, like he had been gone for 10 days, rather than 10 years. I thought you weren't the Shiloh we knew! The initial shocks quickly wore off. You crossed your arms and leveled a look at the freckled face, who had ditched you at the start of summer. He treated you and Liz like complete strangers. Shiloh shifted nervously, angling the brim of his hat down as if to hide from your scrutiny. Liz tutted at your comment.
Rude.
Don't be rude, I'll explain. When we got home that day, I changed my mind about letting it go. Why did I have to? Social media exists, right? So I thought, why not try finding him and sending him a little reminder message? Luckily, there are only so many 17-year-old Shiloh Fields in the world. It wasn't that hard to do. Hearing Liz speak seemed to encourage Shiloh, who pulled himself together to face both you and your sister with a careful smile.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry about what happened. When you talked to me that first time, I was in the middle of a tour for a school field trip. I couldn't get separated from the group, and didn't expect anyone to want to be talking to me. I was so worried about getting back to everyone else, I didn't think too hard on what you were saying. But when Liz's message showed up, everything kind of hit me. Lizzie, Blue, Cove, you were the kids of Sunset Bird back when I was a little kid. There's no way I could forget that, not for real. I do know all of you, and I'm happy I get to see you again. I have Lizzie to thank for that. My mom was already planning to take a short trip near here this summer.
Well,
If my mom could bring me along, Lizzie offered to pick me up and bring me the rest of the way here so I could visit the neighborhood again. And that's why I decided to make it a big reveal instead of outright telling you two I got back in contact with Shiloh. Once again, she lifted a hand in the air, properly presenting the long-lost childhood friend you all shared. So, ta-da! You smiled softly at Liz, remembering how Shiloh used to follow your sister around like a baby chick after its mom when they were kids. It's nice seeing the two of you together like this, just like old times. Cove blinked slowly, a little dazed by everything that was going on.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going to get some water. Don't disappear or anything. He padded off to the kitchen. No need for a chaperone. He knew where the cups were. Wow, you really surprised him, Lizzie. And Blue, too. Did you see your face when I appeared? I'm right in front of you, my dear boy. Yes, I did. Liz patted the cushioned front of the couch. Make yourself comfortable. You don't have to keep hunkering down behind there anymore. With a laugh, Shiloh crossed around the backside and took a seat, but maybe it was awkward being the only one sitting because he kept idly twiddling his fingers. You could hear him humming to himself, a nonsense tune with no real melody, something to keep his voice busy. Being here again could be more nerve-wracking for him than he let on. Cove's soft voice announced his return. He passed to drag the back of his hand across his mouth, wiping away what droplets of water lingered there. Blech. I'm having a tongue-tying situation. Hi, Shiloh. Welcome back. At Cove's confused greeting, Shiloh laughed cheerfully.
Thanks.
Cheerily. Thanks. I think it's amazing you're all still here in the same neighborhood. It's just like how it was back then. With a giggle that implied differently, Liz nodded in your general direction. There have been some changes since then. You narrowed your eyes at Liz, then there was no way you could miss the teasing look she was fixing you and Cove with. Shiloh's eyes shifted across the group, still smiling politely, but there was a slight tilt to his eyebrow. He didn't know what to make of what she was saying. That is until Cove cleared his throat and spoke. Blue and I are dating. It was fascinating how red he got when he said it, but his voice was steady and confident. By now, most people knew you were going out. Shiloh's eyes went wide as saucers, mouth opening into a tiny O shape.
Congratulations!
Really?
That's amazing!
I love his voice! He's so cute! The two of you seemed to like each other even when we were kids. It's really sweet that you're together. I wouldn't want to be with anyone else. You didn't falter as you said it. There was no one like Cove, no one who could replace who he was to you, what you had gone through together. He gave you an adoring smile and eyes that met yours that were full of sincerity. He felt the same way. Shiloh sighed happily at the moment as Cove raised an eyebrow and gave the room a considering glance. Hey, this is where we met the first time, remember? Right after I moved in, me and Blue were brought down right here to have a play date with you. Yeah! Shiloh laughed, his eyes downcast as he fiddled with the corner of his collared shirt. We almost didn't meet in the living room because you wanted to jump out the window to get away from me. Cove cringed at the memory of his younger self being pushed back into the forefront of his mind. His mouth going tight, he awkwardly looked away from Shiloh. You have a good memory?
Oh?
Oh, I don't think so. Seeing this place again just brings up a lot of things back. He clapped his hands together, and an idea suddenly coming to him. But hey, now that our group is together, would you want to go out and visit some of the old places? I've been hiding in the living room since I got here. Liz wasn't afraid to laugh at herself, bringing a hand to her chest silently to take the blame for that. I'd love to. Yeah. Without missing a beat, the others turned to you for your answer. Definitely. Sounds like fun. And with that, the four of you headed into the neighborhood as one. Even with how short the time you spent indoors was, the sun was momentarily blinding once you left the house. Squinting, you brought your hand up to shield your eyes. The pleasant summer day had yet to go away. Only a few wispy clouds drifted along the sky. I wanted to say across, and then I saw that it said along. As you strolled down the way, Liz took the lead, followed by you and Cove walking side by side. Shiloh freely took to walking in the middle of the road, his arms idly swinging back and forth at his sides, as he turned his head every which way to take in as much as he could. It was very much a trip down memory lane for him. He wondered how much the neighborhood had changed in his eyes. Not a word passed between the group as you were heading first, but soon enough you found yourselves walking the usual path to the shopping street. Before you reached it, the sounds of it did a collective sand of the sandals cracking sand, the shrill calls of seagulls, the overlapping conversations of beachgoers, and random strains of music from various stalls. Wow! The odd gasp had come from Shiloh. His eyes were all lit up. Were there always so many different stores in one place?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Wow, I can see why so many people come here. Hey, do they still have those nice little ice cream stands? Of course they do. Yay, we should get some. It'll be my treat. Thanks, Shiloh. Ice cream sounds perfect on such a hot day. How about you, Cove? You could see that unlike Liz, Cove was struggling with the decision, brow wrinkled in thought. Finally, a hesitant smile appeared on his face as he settled on keeping the spirit of the special occasion. Yeah, sounds good. Awesome! And Blue? I'll buy one for me and one for you, Shiloh. He's not remembering that moment. Shiloh's voice rose an octave, so taken off guard that you would offer such a thing. You never let me do anything for you when we were kids. Now that you're here to visit, you gotta let me treat you for a change. That's really sweet. Red-faced, Shiloh gave a helpless chuckle. Alright, I'd like it a lot if you paid for me. You were pleased to hear that. Shiloh was still his overly generous self, but not everything was the same. If it had been the time when you were kids, the two of you might have gone back and forth on this forever. Liz not so subtly sidled up to you, her shoulders bumping against yours with a smirk. What a goody two-shoes! You rolled your eyes at the childish insult, but you knew she didn't mean it. She was happy to see you getting along with Shiloh. The four of you continued to walk as the ice cream plans were further discussed. Are you getting a popsicle, Lizzie? Yes? Hearing that, Shiloh smiled shyly. I thought you might still like that. I'm gonna get an ice cream cone. Shiloh began to turn towards Cove, but before he could ask, Cove offered up his choice. I'll get an ice cream sandwich. I'm gonna get... kinda want a cone. I want a cone that I can share with Cove. Shiloh had the right idea for this one. It was the best choice. You still like those, Cool. Yep. There was an ice cream stall further up the street, across from a souvenir shop, displaying postcards of the seaside and saltwater taffy in its windows. The stand itself was already hard to miss with its pastel pink and blues, and its eye-catching poster boards listing every individual flavor. It was impossible to ignore once the catchy little jingle playing from its speakers was added. Shiloh greeted the owner and began picking out treats that everyone had chosen. He paid for the others, stepping aside to let you buy his, and he handed the rest to the respective owners. You picked out your choice too and added that to your purchase. Sinking your teeth into your ice cream cone, you relished the sweet chill it left in your mouth. Liz was right. This was a perfect treat for a summer day. Around you, everyone was eating at their own pace. Liz held her popsicle away from her, careful not to let it drip onto her dress. She was trying to go about eating it as delicately as she could while Shiloh dug into his. You counted only 2 or 3 bites before Cove had devoured his sandwich. Shiloh laughed, also noticing the way Cove inhaled his food. It's already finished? Cove shrugged a little in reply, his attention more focused on crumpling up the sandwich wrapper in his hand. So, what have you been doing around here since I've been gone? Well, I already told you about me attending college away from here, so I don't really live here anymore. But to be more specific on my life, I'm pursuing a degree in architecture. Shiloh perked up at that, his mouth falling open in awe. Amazing!
Thanks.
Actually, I was thinking about it, and the first time I really decided I liked buildings and building them was when you and I would make sandcastles out on the beach.
Aw.
Lizzie! At such a sincere admission from your sister, all Shiloh could do was blush and lower his head, too flattered to know what else to say. Liz laughed, just as flustered. Though she had been the one to say it, the atmosphere was awkward but not unpleasant. Shiloh shyly glanced over at you and Cove. And what about you two? What have you been up to?
Oh,
Me and Blue just graduated. High school, I mean. I've got a part-time job. I volunteer at this organization to clean up stuff and things like that. I had a lot of plans. That's a secret. Highly classified information. Can't go around casually revealing it, you understand? Cove laughed at that, giving a slight shake of the head. Shiloh just seemed happy to hear it.
great!
Being around him again was a little like picking up an old forgotten habit, clunkily at first, but as the four of you talked, it started to come more naturally. And when one of you ran out of things to say, suddenly someone else remembered something new. Oh right, do you remember those mean old, not actually grandparents that used to live in our neighborhood? Yeah, they were so mean. Well, they're not here anymore. Oh no. They're not spending summers here anymore. They're still alive. Thank goodness. It helped that Shiloh was as eager to hear about what had gone on in his absence as people were to tell him. Soon, everyone threw out what trash they had in a nearby garbage can as your group made their way down to the beach. Going down to the shore inevitably led to a certain spot. It didn't take long for Shiloh to recognize what it was in the distance. His words trailed off in the middle of the sentence, his footsteps faltering at first. Then, all at once, he broke away from the group and dashed right into the old park, giggling as he ran. Oh, everything's so small! His laughter petered out as he came to a stop by the swings and grabbed hold of one of the support poles. He walked in a little circle around it, marveling how easily his hand wrapped around it in its entirety. Emboldened by Shiloh's enthusiasm, Liz plopped herself down in one of the swing sets, only to instantly show an expression of regret. There was no way she was comfortable in that tiny seat so low to the ground, not with how she had to scrunch up her legs to fit there. Shiloh creeped up behind her. He took hold of the chains of her swing, one in each hand.
Seriously?
What are you doing? And with a grin, Shiloh started walking back. Liz shifted her seat to look at him. You can't be trying to push me. These are made for kids. It's never going to work. But Shiloh just hummed and kept pulling her back. Resigning herself to her fate, Lizzie tucked her legs up as much as possible as Shiloh moved his hands to her back. With a running start, he got her forward and as far as he could go before jumping out of the way. Liz had her eyes squeezed shut, a screech escaping her as the swing started falling backwards, and when it swung back around, there was Shiloh again to push her. She couldn't kick around like when you were kids. Her legs were too long for that now, but Shiloh was pushing her enough to keep the momentum going. The air was filled with their wild laughter and almost rhythmic jangle of the swing chains. Cove sat against the bars of the jungle gym, wearing a bent smile as he watched them. He was fiddling with something, turning it over and over in his hands. When you craned your neck to get a better view, he oblingly, I can't say that word. This is what happens. I can't say certain words. I know what it's trying to say. He willingly lifted it for you to see. There, I came across with the word. It was a piece of shell, one side rough and molted gray, the other side completely smooth, revealing a faint blue sheen when it caught the light. I saw it on the beach. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good one. No, I meant Shiloh. He seems more confident than I remember. Why don't you push me on the swings like that? Cove narrowed his eyes at you, folding his arms with a bemused smile. Why don't you push me on the swings like that? If Shiloh can do it for Liz, you can do it for me too. Well, he had you there. Soon your sister began to speak out. All right, I'm ready to get off now. How do you stop this? Don't worry. Shiloh braced himself, one foot planted forward as the swing started coming back down. Then in one quick motion, he reached up, caught the chains again. The impact had his feet skidding back in the sand, but he kept his stance steady. If Liz was surprised at suddenly being brought to a halt, she didn't show it, only tilting her head up to smile at him. Shiloh had yet to catch his breath, though, returned to the smile just as brightly. He let go of the chains, walking around the swing set and briefly rubbing his hands together before offering one to Liz, which she graciously accepted, needing the help to get out of the tiny seat. Then the two of them made their way back over to Ewan Cove. Liz was more ruffled than usual. Her sun hat was off kilter, having held on for dear life for the entire ride. She took a moment to straighten her outfit back into place. That looked fun. It was. Even though you were just pushing me on the swing? Yep, that was the fun part. Shiloh, you've got an idea of what our lives have been like since you've been gone, but I've been wondering what happened to you after you moved away. Shiloh's eyes went wide, as if it was surprising to hear. You couldn't recall him talking about himself when you were all telling stories, but maybe he hadn't been able to find the right timing. Maybe. Maybe he couldn't find the right timing. He brought his hand to his chin, tapping it thoughtfully as he looked up and to the side. Well, what happened was my mom decided to move back to the south, closer to where I was born. We stayed there for a few years till she got another job offer in California again thanks to a connection she had here. It was a really good job at a private boarding school, so she decided to take it. With a wide grin, he said the next part. And as a bonus, her kid, me, gets to attend the school and live in the dorms for free. I've been there since my second year of middle school. Pretty soon, I'm going to be starting my last year of high school. Liz leaned towards him with an tentative smile on her face. Have you been doing well there? Getting good grades? Got any friends? At the list of questions, Shiloh held his hands in front of himself, as if they were physical things he could stave off. Yeah, to everything. It can be a little hard sometimes because of how people are at that school, but I'm happy. How people are? Cove couldn't guess what that meant, but Liz folded her arms, scowling. Don't tell me there are more people like that Nate guy hanging around. Shiloh rubbed at his cheek, laughing nervously. He glanced from the bars of the jungle gym to the laces of his shoes to the trees swinging in the distance, unsure of where to rest his gaze. Not exactly. Nate doesn't mean to be mean, he just kind of is. He's the #1 performer for athletics and academics. He always takes on so much responsibility that the only possible way he can finish it all is if absolutely nothing goes wrong. But that's impossible, so he always stresses and is ready to snap. He can't handle when someone seems to be causing a problem. That's why during the field trip he was upset when I went off on my own like that. Still, he's really smart and reliable and sensitive and he cares a lot. Most of the time he doesn't even realize his way of dealing with stuff upsets other people. Cove had a patent smile on his face, listening earnestly as Shiloh rattled off his list of Nate's good traits. You know him pretty well. Are you actually friends? Well, not exactly. Me and Nate are in the same after-school group. About once a month, me and 6 other students and a supervisor get together to talk. We did it a lot all of last year, and I think next year we're going to be in the same group again. I hope so. Nice. Let's just go with nice. Shiloh liked this after-school group of his, and you were glad to hear he had a space for himself at his school. In his school. Blech. Personally, I'd still appreciate having a word with Nate about his communication skills. Her tone of voice was low and pointed. You'd be worried for Nate if not for that playful smile that accompanied her voice. Shiloh let out a little laugh at that. I do have Nate's number, but he wouldn't pick up. People in my group only answer when they feel like hearing from me, so I usually have to wait for them to call. Either that or they never consider answering my calls or calling me or talking to me unless the supervisor forces them to. It was such a bleak description of his dynamic with his group, but he didn't seem to realize it until he glanced up and saw the concerned looks on everyone's faces. His smile fell. He hastened to add one more thing. Well, except for one, who will always answer for sure. Oh? She immediately perked up.
Really?
So that's a friend of yours? He hesitated to answer, something Cove picked up on. Not exactly. Yeah, I'd like to be friends, though. Alright. Liz crossed her arms together once more, grim-faced like she was a commander of a ship about to lead her crew into battle. You should call them right now. What? If you want to be friends with them, I can help you. If you're going to be in the same group again, then you should at least try to get along. No, I couldn't. He quickly grew flustered, his tongue stumbling over his sentences. I don't want to be a bother.
I mean...
Liz, what are we gonna do? Watch him while he talks to someone on the phone? No, Cove. Shiloh. The last syllable of Shiloh's name trailing off into nothing, it soon became clear that Liz had not fully thought out the plan yet. But she wouldn't be Liz if she just stopped there. Shiloh, could you put them on a video call and we could all talk together, of course? She clapped her hands together, a wide smile on her face that didn't leave room for dissenting opinions.
All right.
It's a good idea. It'll work. I got no words for that. Cove gave a long-suffering sigh at Liz's suggestion. Come on, Shiloh. We'll talk to them, say we're your friends from out of town. The worst that could happen is nothing changes. But once they have more chances to talk to, I know they'll be convinced to be better friends. It's gonna turn out okay. Shiloh stalled to answer, but his hands were already hovering over one of the pockets of his pants. Alright, we can talk. Yes! Liz clenched a hand into a fist, cheering as Shiloh officially reached into the pocket and pulled out his phone. You noticed that it was the same type of model as your own, but his had a red case around it. The screen lit up as Shiloh requested a video call with some number in his contacts. None of them on the list had names. He must remember what number belongs to what person. He inched closer to the three of you so everyone could hear better. Vaguely, you wondered how this looked from the outside. 4 teenagers on the verge of adulthood, hanging out with an old playground, all huddled up around a single phone. Strange? Suspicious? Absolutely, Blue. This is so weird. The ringing of the phone broke you out of your musings. You kept your eyes on it, your heart speeding at the end of each dial tone, thinking, Cove, this might be it. Could this be it, only to have another start up. It had been ringing for a while when you started to think of what Cove said about all of you watching as Shiloh talked on the phone. Maybe even that wouldn't happen. Shiloh could sense the awkwardness in the air, smiling to himself to dispel it. This is normal, don't worry. Just as he said it, the call ended, not even going to voicemail. Shiloh clicked to redial. He never answers on the first call. He always does on the second. That's how he is, at least with most people. There are exceptions. You, Liz, and Cove furtively shared ambiguous looks, none of you wanting to accidentally discourage Shiloh. Then you focused on the phone again as it started ringing once more. The jingling suddenly cut off in the middle, followed by the faint sound of white noise. With a big smile and flushed cheeks, Shiloh brought the phone up to his face. A voice, low and groggy, came rasping out of the speakers. Hello? Shiloh, on the other hand, was much more chipper.
Hi.
Hi, I'm visiting a town I used to live in when I was little, and I wanted to introduce my group mates to the people I knew back then. Some of them have already met Nate. Can you say hi to them too? And with that rushed introduction, Shiloh stuck the phone out towards Cove, gesturing for him to greet the person on the other end. Although Cove hadn't been on board in the beginning, the only indication of that now was the lopsided tilt of his smile. He turned his gaze down to the screen, opening his mouth to speak, only to stutter to a complete stop. Huh? All Cove could do was splutter and gape at the screen. His reaction had Shiloh's brow crinkling in a worry. What? Shiloh's groupmate didn't sound particularly impressed with how this conversation was going so far. Shiloh frowned, retracting his arm away from Cove. As he did so, the screen tilted towards you, and you caught a glimpse of what was on screen. Oh no! Oh! He's back! The monster! The monster child! Light green hair, sharp orange eyes, shadowed with bags, and icy pale skin, all tied together to make up the scowling face of a person who clearly had no desire to be here. Oh my god. A flood of memories arose, flashes of that one summer many years ago at this very same park, you holding onto an arrangement of fruit, Derek and Cove at your side. And that kid, mean as a tiny chihuahua, snapping at everyone who dared to come close. Are you Jeremy? Yeah? His reply was palpably disinterested. How did you know his name was Jeremy? You didn't tell them? No, I only called you someone from my group at school. Jeremy regarded you cautiously, for the first time giving a situation a little of his focus. Cove bristled, sucking in a long, deep, dramatic breath.
Oh my god.
I know, Cove! I'm sorry! All at once, he started shouting, and not just with his voice. He waved his arms around, gesturing wildly with his hands, and repeatedly yelled, oh my god, with all sorts of inflections. Oh my god, oh my god! All these antics, Jeremy gave a short huff and a sigh through his teeth, a sound tiny over the phone speakers. What is this, Shiloh? Are you trying to make me suffer? Are you still mad at what happened at the amusement park? I was at your side, you know. Liz, who had been entirely lost this whole time, finally spoke up.
Huh?
What happened at the amusement park? But no one paid that question any mind. I don't know what's going on. Have you met each other before? Nope. It was an immediate reply from Jeremy, but those stinging eyes squinted. Wait. There was a flash of recognition in his eyes as he leaned his head forward and scrutinized the both of you. His already wide frown somehow found a way to grow deeper at his realization.
Oh, it's you people. Again.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I didn't want to meet you again either. The screen instantly went blank. Shiloh gasped, looking from his phone to the rest of the group. He hung up. Jeremy doesn't hang up on people like that. What happened? Don't look at me. I've never met the kid before. You could feel Cove's stare poking and prodding at the side of your head. You caught his expression wide-eyed and tense. You knew what happened. Cove knew what happened, but he wasn't giving any answer to Shiloh. In the past, I kinda dumped a cup of water on him. Okay, do I say he earned it, or do I just say I dumped a cup of water on him?
What?
I know, Shiloh! Blue, really? He resisted the urge to grin and simply shrugged. I've got to call him back. You can make up. I've already tried. Don't give me that, Shiloh. It was only for a moment, but you caught Shiloh briefly pause while he was redialing the number. You wondered if he had something he wanted to say. He chose against voicing it in the end. The phone rang for a long time, long enough that you were surprised when Jeremy actually picked up, his answer with an even longer sigh.
What?
Shiloh held the phone close to his face, looking down at the screen with large apologetic eyes. Are you okay? I'd be better if you hadn't called back. Aw, Jeremy, can't we talk it over? I don't want any of us fighting.
Do I have to?
Oh. Yeah, I think so. Shiloh held his phone out towards you and Cove once more. Next to you, Cove glared defensively and silently. Oh. I'm sorry for dumping my cup of water on you. You didn't expect that to ever come back to haunt you, but here you were. Finally, Jeremy's shoulders dipped slightly. He made the most exaggerated sigh you'd ever heard, since the previous one at least.
Sorry.
I don't remember exactly what I did or what I said to you, but sorry. What? Jeremy sighed yet again. You were sensing a pattern. His gaze rolled over to Cove. I do know what I was like as a kid. Well, okay, but who's that apology for? It better be for me and Blue. He spoke sternly, though there was no hiding the shakiness present. That didn't matter. Cove coming to your defense by confronting Jeremy brought a warm smile to your face. Jeremy, on the other hand, continued to be unimpressed. The corners of his lips twitched. I didn't need to know what the teenage guy equivalent of a smooshy squeak is, but I do now. Thanks for that. God, Jeremy, you're such a douche. Even when you're trying to apologize, you're still a douche. A small offended noise escaped Cove, but unfortunately it was also squeaky sounding. His face immediately burnt red with embarrassment. That's it, you better not But a perfect description, Cove is exactly that. With a large grin spread across your face and a small laugh tumbled out. You didn't need to look at Cove to know he was pouting. Jeremy didn't react at all. He continued watching the 4 people on the other end of this unwanted call lackadaisically. I don't know what that word means.
Whatever.
The apology is for whoever. Anyone who had to deal with me back then wasn't having a good time. Blue just happened to have the spine to not take it, and that's whatever. Amazed, Cove took a few processing moments before he could respond. He blinked and rubbed the back of his neck. Thanks, I mean? It's no problem. I accept your apology. Thank you, Jeremy. This moment was the absolute last thing you had expected today, but you couldn't help but be pleased it happened. Whatever. Following Cove's eye, you watched it dart from Shiloh to Jeremy, openly wondering what had happened to Jeremy over these last few years. So you're nice now?
Nope.
I don't throw tantrums or pick fights anymore, but I'm not nice. Jeremy shook his head in disbelief. That squeak toy comment wasn't a compliment, you know? I don't have the energy to get angrily worked up like I used to as a kid. It's all pointless anyway. Now I'm just miserable. His tone was even grumpier than usual and dragged out the syllables on the last word for extra emphasis. Oh. An awkward laugh escaped Shiloh, then his mouth pulled into a demure smile. Don't let what Jeremy says about himself get you down, too. He's got people who care about him and make sure he's okay, like me. Don't listen to Shiloh. Nice that you're looking out for someone else, Shiloh. Shiloh blushed at the compliment while Jeremy fixed you with a blank stare. Thanks, Blue. Okay, seriously, how long am I meant to be out of the loop here? Her expression twisted in frustration as Liz rubbed her right temple. Why am I the only one who doesn't know this kid? Shiloh goes to school with him, that's fine, but how did the 2 of you meet him and I didn't? He was around town that one summer back like 5 years ago. You were there. Liz crossed her arms and stared unconvinced at you. Is that all? While Liz seemed to be a bit underwhelmed, Shiloh appeared to be utterly amazed. You had to hold back a small laugh.
Really?
You knew Jeremy as a little kid? What was he like? I've only known him for a year and a half. Well, his voice immediately hushed into nothing. You could see Cove wince thinking on those past encounters. Do it, Cove! Oh, you've got an impression of me, huh? Do the impression, Cove. Cove's body stiffened in fear. Jeremy leaned forward just a bit. I'm sorry, Cove. I'm pushing you onto the scene, my dear boy. My sweet boy, you're getting so in trouble for this. Sure, go ahead, do it. Jeremy spoke dispassionately, but somehow still felt like a dare.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Shiloh, it's not gonna be great. I don't think you understand. Cove shook his head. Along with a stilted laugh, he was sweating in place. I really shouldn't. It's not very flattering. I bet. More broken chuckles fell out of him, and Cove turned a face towards the ground.
Sorry.
Drooping your shoulders, you accepted that Cove wasn't gonna do the impression. Shiloh frowned in disappointment. Jeremy groaned at the atmosphere. Whatever, I'll do my own impression.
You are stupid, you are stupid, you are stupid, and don't forget, you are stupid.
Oh, Jeremy. He delivered the rapid-fire insults in a blandly annoyed tone. After a pause, he went back to his normal tone of complete disinterest. So that, but louder and shriller. I'm not gonna yell for this. Sheesh, I can do a better impression than that. Jeremy didn't say anything. The only reaction you got out of him was a single raised eyebrow. You took it as an invitation to go ahead with it. Ahem! Visiting a nice beach town to see my extended family is torture! Why can't I just sit alone in the dark doing nothing? My life is so hard!
Yep.
Yep, that pretty much sounds right. At that confirmation, Shiloh burst into uncontrollable laughter. Even when he calmed moments later, gasping for breath, there was still a wide grin plastered to his face. I can't even imagine Jeremy being like that. I can't imagine him not being like that. They both chuckled again, Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile. I mean, Jeremy hasn't made fun of my eyebrows once this whole conversation. Unbelievable!
Huh.
Don't you freaking dare, Jeremy! Jeremy blinked and focused all his attention on Cove. His eyes unmistakably narrowed on his eyebrows. He didn't say anything at first, and then his words came out in a mumble. Makes sense, that makes sense. I guess insulting eyebrows was just what I did as a kid. What does that mean? Ugh, what do you think it means? You were the only kid in the world with bad eyebrows? You weren't the only kid in the world with bad eyebrows. You're not the only one I picked on for it.
Seriously?
I wasn't? Couldn't help yourself, could ya? Nope. Wow, so what made their eyebrows bad? Are you curious if yours are better by terrible eyebrow standards at least? Kind of, yeah.
Sigh.
Jeremy is wonderful. Incredulously, Cove looked from Jeremy to you, then back to him again. You had to question if you heard that right. He spoke the word sigh instead of actually sighing. Noticing the reaction, Jeremy sighed for real, but he continued on to answer Cove's question. The guy has perfectly odd hair coloring, white hair, only the top of his head. Every other strand on his body is dark brown, including his immensely bushy eyebrows. He was born that way, it's not dyed. So you were the scared boy with the dumb wavy eyebrows, and he was the white-haired boy with the stupid caterpillar eyebrows. Okay. Ow. Unexpectedly, a loud gasp came from Shiloh at that description. No! You picked on Pran for his eyebrows? I did. I'm sure you find that hilarious. No, that's not funny. He said, but Shiloh was smothering laughter. The unconvinced note in Jeremy's voice didn't surprise you. Okay, wait, give me a second. Just let me... Jeremy rolled his eyes in the slowest, most exaggerated way possible. When he made a complete circle, he spoke flatly while Shiloh broke into a fit of giggles. There. Who's Pran? Does Shiloh know him too?
Well...
Jeremy and Pran have known each other for a long time. They managed to go to the same boarding school later on. I met them both there in spring last year. We're all group mates. Jeremy's gaze slid away from Shiloh. He looked somewhere between you and Cove. Pran and I met about 4.5 years ago, back when I was still an intolerable brat, and Pran was meek. You can only imagine how amazing that combination was. Yeah, that must make those group meetings awkward. Nope, somehow, someway, for some reason, Pran chose to stubbornly stick with me for as long as we've known each other. He's my best friend. What? It's surprising, I know. I have a best friend, and it's the caterpillar brow boy guy of all people. But I guess things balance out in the end. Pran's timid nature is good and dead. He grew up to be colder than even me. I'm moopy and he's broody. A perfect match. 2 peas in a ruining everybody's life pod.
Gross.
Don't quote Everett. Cove whined after Jeremy snapped his last remark. Now who's Everett? You don't want to know. Yeah, you don't want to know. Shiloh hummed and he watched his 3 old friends with an amused smile. He was having fun. Before you could say anything, Jeremy continued. Everett is also part of the group, unfortunately. But he chose not to elaborate further than that. Liz sighed this time. You could feel her frustration. You couldn't blame her for that. She hadn't been able to participate much at all. She didn't know Jeremy then, so there was no basis for reminiscing now. And there was a 10-year gap in her history with Shiloh. The whole situation struck an odd chord with you. 2 boys you knew separately came to know each other, and now they knew each other much better than they knew any of you. Shiloh was almost a stranger. Jeremy hadn't left the call, and you were learning bits and pieces about Shiloh's new world outside of Sunset Bird. You were taking both as little wins. Turning to the 3 of you, Shiloh smiled apologetically. You wondered if he was picking up on how in the dark Cove and Liz were feeling. He was perspective when he wanted to be. Hey, is there anything you want to hear about Jeremy? I can tell you all about him. We should get to know each other better. Don't do that. It'll be okay. Jeremy whined, but Shiloh brushed off his complaints off. He remained happily focused on the rest of you. Liz seemed to perk up at the conversation shift. That sounds great! We should get to know Jeremy. So, who wants to go first? Despite being eager, it was obvious that Liz didn't have any ideas herself. Jeremy let out a long sigh. Okay. What happened to the bowl cut and glasses? He had a bowl cut?! That sent Shiloh into a fit of laughter while Jeremy shook his head disapprovingly. Through chuckles, Shiloh continued with his best guess.
Right.
His mom and dad probably decided that back then, and now he picked. Or they developed new taste over the years. As for glasses, Jeremy wears contacts at school and when he's out and about, but he still wears glasses when he's at home or working part-time at his parents' hobby shop. What did happen at the amusement park?
Oh.
I don't actually know. I can only think of one time when we were both there. I'm not sure what part he's talking about. As far as I could tell, I didn't do anything to upset him, and I know he didn't do anything to me. That's what you're going with, Shiloh? Jeremy, what happened? I'm not gonna tell you. It's humiliating. And Shiloh knows I'm not gonna say anything. That's why he won't explain either. For several quiet moments, everyone stared at Shiloh and Jeremy in confusion. Shiloh had a similar look in his face before averting his eyes. Sorry, I can't help you with this one, Blue. What are his parents like? They're nice and optimistic. They work really hard, but they can be smothering sort of and usually embarrass Jeremy. Jeremy seemed unenthused by Shiloh's answer. I'm gonna ask if I can have his number, just as a funny thing that I'm gonna do. We're gonna go for it. But why?
All right.
Sure. Ignoring Jeremy again, Shiloh immediately started listing off the number for you. Jeremy grimaced while you contentedly saved it in your contacts list. That's everything I can think. Do you have any siblings?
Nope.
Jeremy is an only child. He doesn't have pets either. Although Pran spends almost no time with his own family and a lot with Jeremy's, it's kind of like a sibling relationship, I think. Don't bring Pran into this awful thing. Okay. What's your full name? Jeremy Marin King. Isn't that neat? Why do you even want to know that? Are you planning on stealing my identity? No. I just wanted to know what your last name was. He crossed his arms and sighed. A grin quickly appeared on your face. You can have it. I'll keep that in mind. It's everything I can think of. Cool, thanks for asking. Cove, do you have any questions for Jeremy? Stunned, it took Cove a moment to recover from being put on the spot. But ultimately, his eyes shifted from Shiloh's and locked with Jeremy's. They remained like that long enough that it was as if they could speak telepathically. I have a question, but Shiloh can't answer. Okay. What the hell, Cove? Fine, ask me. Let's get this over with. What do you think of me? Even if you don't think I'm tough or something, do you still feel like I'm stupid and wrong about everything? A crack formed on Jeremy's lackluster expression. His barely opened eyes lifted a little more, but he still spoke flatly. My opinion on stuff is basically the least important thing you could ever worry about. It's pointless. Well, I'm still asking, so... Cove, right? That's your name? Cove nodded. It was a tint of pink in his cheeks as he bashfully rubbed his arm.
Okay.
Okay, Cove. You seem like a guy who cares a lot about things that don't matter. Sounds pretty dumb to me. I outgrew that years ago. And being as soft as you act, it isn't something that I would ever do, basically. But you know what the absolute dumbest thing really is? Cove shook his head with creased brows. He then leaned forward just a bit, like he couldn't risk not hearing what revelation Jeremy was going to bestow on him. Making yourself miserable if you don't have to be. Oh. If you and the rest of the people here have a way to enjoy existence, then you should go ahead and do that. Stay gentle and happy, dumb eyebrow guy.
You have my approval, if that's what you wanted.
I hope you all have wonderful lives and suffer as little as possible. Oh, Jeremy! Wow. The word tumbled out softly, Cove earnestly amazed by Jeremy's words.
Thank you.
You know what's not gonna make you stay happy? What? Talking to a downer like me. So you really should end this conversation right now, and none of you should ever call me again for the rest of our lives. That sounds good. Can I hang up already? Aw, wait, Jeremy, I can't never call you again. Shut up, Shiloh. Unfazed, Shiloh laughed with a tilt of his head. Building something good only to try undercutting it, that's the Jeremy I know.
Sorry.
Shh. The word dripped with sarcasm that was accompanied by a smirk. It was the first time you saw him smile the entire time. Oh my goodness! Look at that face! That's gonna be the thumbnail. Ooh, what's going on? Sorry about that, guys. Cove piped up meekly, an awkward smile on his own face. Maybe my opinion is totally skewed because I'm comparing things now to how Jeremy used to be, but I mean, you don't seem that bad. What? Cove needed to look away from Jeremy's painfully sharp eyes to finish his thought.
I mean...
I'd probably be okay with talking to you again. Come on, you can have standards. Jeremy groaned loudly at your acceptance of him. Your smile only widened in amusement, and Liz clapped her hands. Wonderful!
Good.
Now that we're so much closer to this Jeremy kid, I think we can all get along together and be friends. Friends? Jeremy repeated the word back like it was a foreign phrase. He genuinely didn't seem to understand. That's right, if we keep working on it, I don't see why the five of us can't be friends. He's so confused. He stared at Liz incredulously for several moments, her expression twisted into fresh confusion of her own. Okay, 3 things. Firstly, I already have one whole friend, and that's more than enough. Second, I still don't know who you are. Did you even say your name at any point? And most importantly, third, one of the people in this friendship is Shiloh Fields. He and I aren't gonna be friends. Why not? And I'm Liz, by the way. Because he's Shiloh. Our relationship is already as good as it's ever gonna be. He mercifully leaves me most of the time, and on the weird occasion where he needs something, I just get it over with. And then he goes away again, and I have a modicum of peace. You know how it works, right? You're in it with me. We have the best arrangement possible with the way it is. Jeremy looked to Shiloh seriously with the back of a validity in their relationship, but Shiloh shook his head with a laugh. I don't try to hang around too much, but that's because you're shy. You're the only one who thinks that setup is actually a good idea. Sorry. Jeremy turned his face to the other side and let out another exaggerated sigh. Cove and Liv both joined in Shiloh's mirth. Jeremy got no support.
Sigh.
Of course you'd say that. Why did I even bother? That's Shiloh's famous memory for you. Liz's chuckling stopped. Wait, what does that mean? Shiloh's famous memory? What? Whatever. Basically, Shiloh annoyingly remembers everything that happens to us for all eternity. At least until some piece of info he has isn't helpful anymore, he's got some explaining to do. Then magically, all of a sudden, he doesn't know anything about it. His boldly inconsistent recollection of situations is pretty much running joke. It's Shiloh's stick. One of them, at least, anyway. A scowl dug into Liz's face as Jeremy spoke. Cove lost his smile seeing his reaction. Shiloh remained silent with his big childlike eyes locked on your sister. Jeremy began to shrink away from the screen of the changing atmosphere. He broke eye contact off with everyone. I'm guessing he didn't mention that.
No.
He didn't. And he said he forgot something to you? I do recall him saying a little thing like that. Sorry. But well, apparently you had the pleasure of meeting Nate. You know me, and I talked a bit about Pran and Everett too. We're all in that unbearable group, and we're all unbearable people. What an amazing coincidence, huh? What we're about is kinda hard to hide. I'm gonna go now. I don't want to be the fifth wheel to your own little group. You three people have a good day, I guess. And Shiloh, I'll see you back at school.
Bye.
Jeremy promptly ended the call. Just as people began to warm up to him, he accidentally found a new way to ice the mood again. Shiloh, now averting his own gaze, put his phone away and chuckled.
So...
I knew that Jeremy didn't think highly of me. It's even worse than I thought. That's really sad. Shiloh! Her firm tone immediately brought Shiloh's focus back to her. Once she had his attention, however, Liz's voice became small. When we first met you in the city, did you know who we were? Did you pretend not to recognize us? Two friends watched each other for a beat, but ultimately, Shiloh closed his eyes with a lopsided smile. Aw, Lizzie, you gotta know I can never really forget you. Liz was speechless, but it wasn't quiet. Cove couldn't stop himself from shouting out. Oh my god, you were lying to them? Lying is a strong word. I was, improvising. Oh, Shiloh. That makes way more sense than you not figuring it out. It was weird to think that he was trying to trick you, but the interaction was a lot more understandable that way. Go home, Shiloh. Or go to my house and wait there until we can send you home.
Alright.
Okay. With his shoulders dipped and head low, Shiloh obediently left the park alone. After he disappeared up the road, Liz sat her butt down right in the sand with no concern for how dirty her dress might get this time. Sister or Shiloh, I kinda wanna know why he did it. But I also wanna comfort her. I wanna watch Liz, I'll be back.
What?
You didn't give him an explanation, you just shot out of the park after Shiloh. You caught up with him in your neighborhood street. He must have noticed your footsteps because he was standing still in the middle of the road waiting. You couldn't read his expression, but he didn't say anything. I want to talk. He smiled when fiddling with the rim of his hat. We will. Later. Thanks for trying. And that was it. He turned his back on you, continuing his walk of shame. He wanted to wait, like Liz asked. Even after all this time, he listened to her. There was nothing you could do. You left him there to rejoin the others at the park. Cove seemed concerned for you when you arrived, but you quickly reassured him when you sat down. He nodded and gave you your space by your sister. She hadn't moved from where you had first left her. However, your presence caused her to stir. You can go. We're done. Cove shared an unsure look with you. She wanted to be alone, but this wasn't the time for that. No, it's obvious you need us here with you. Accepting that you were gonna be here for this, she let out a groan. At the same time, Liz pulled the sides of her hat down, gripping it tightly in frustration. I can't believe he pretended like he didn't know us. Since when was Shiloh too good to catch up with acquaintances? It's infuriating. Am I an idiot for thinking we could talk? You wiggled closer and pulled your big sister into a hug from the side. You continued to hold on, even when she didn't let go of her hat. Yeah, somehow.
Fine.
I know I shouldn't care. It doesn't matter if the one person doesn't want to be my bestie. He's not the greatest man on earth. I'll be fine. But I brought him here all the way from the other side of the state, and I don't even know why he did any of this. Liz finally removed her hands from the brim of her hat in order to rub at her temples instead. It blows. Cove snorted some nervous laughter at her unexpected phrasing. She didn't mind it. Say the word and I'll force the answers out of him. Please don't. You'll go to jail. Fine.
Thank you.
Aww. She squished you tight and rocked you back and forth in a dramatic hug. You let out a cove-like squeak. I love you. I love you too. And what is family for? Well, I thought it was for hogging the phone while growing up, but this works. She released you with a shaky, self-impressed laugh. And thank you too, Cove, for being around. We're gonna be official family one day, right? She shot him a wry smile and he tensed up, face going red. He was willing to take her teasing if it made her feel better. I don't mind. Good. Liz rested her eyes after those last couple words. It eased your heart to see her feel better. Cove let out a soft sigh of relief. Hey. Cove then brought his face close to yours so he could speak in a whisper.
Are you okay?
I know Liz was his best friend, but you knew him, too, and you were there when he did the whole pretend improvisation act. I don't know how to feel. You hadn't cared before, but your feelings had become mixed. That makes sense. I feel like he doesn't deserve to be gone for 10 years and suddenly mess with everybody's emotions. Cove ended his checkup by reaching over to pat you on the shoulder reassuringly. Your longtime neighborhood group sat together quietly in the sand, just enjoying the feeling of familiarity and support. You weren't entirely sure how much time passed, but you were eventually caught off guard by a soft call in the distance. In unison, the three of you turned your heads to the sound, and there, standing at the edge of the playground was Shiloh himself. He waved. You didn't want him to hurt your sister again. Why would he think it was okay to come back here after everything? You simply stared back. Did you say something? I couldn't hear you from over there, but don't get up on my account. I'll come to you. What? You knew no one had actually spoken, and Shiloh almost certainly did too. Shiloh approached with easy strides, as if he had been welcomed. You were floored by how much confidence or shamelessness the boy was apparently capable of now. Liz turned her face and refused to acknowledge what was happening. She might have been trying to think happy thoughts and wish Shiloh's presence away. Unfortunately, it didn't work. When Shiloh arrived, he plopped down in the sand with the rest of you, his legs folded crisscross.
Hi.
Get lost, Shiloh. I will, just a minute. What do you want now? Well, I figured you'd want to talk to me after you had some space. I ought to let you do that, even if you're gonna yell at me. Liz finally faced him to be free to snap at Shiloh with full force. And why in the world do you think that? Unfazed, Shiloh looked back at her softly. You haven't changed that much, Lizzie. You're the one who found me online when I brushed you off earlier this summer. When have you ever preferred leaving something unresolved in the end? You didn't even get a chance to make me explain why I did it. I bet you're dying to do that. Liz ground her teeth, quietly fuming. Shiloh had called it right. and it sucked for her. Fine, I'll bite. Give me your excuses.
Well,
But mostly it was really bad timing. I could have handled it a lot better if I'd known I was going to see you that day, or if there wasn't a self-appointed hall monitor dutifully watching every move people made. And a hi, good to see you, gotta go was simply too much for your little heart to manage. Of course, the goal was to keep as much distance as possible. Admitting I was the guy you knew wouldn't have been helpful. So you can't stand us, and me trying to reconnect was just a huge pain for you after all. Amazing, wonderful, thank you so much for saying so. No, that's not it. Don't feel bad though, you're almost never wrong. Your older sister's brows twitched as she stared at Shiloh in tired disbelief. He smiled back at her brightly. I did it so this wouldn't happen. What? I dealt with that situation the way I always do. By saying stuff I didn't exactly mean because it's easier that way. You heard Jeremy. It's what I'm known for. Sure, right now you're mad that I'm pretending not to remember you. But if I hadn't done it, it would have been something else later on and we'd have ended up here still. Liz's anger became more and more difficult for her to maintain. It was soon replaced with sad confusion. And don't do that! Don't be like that! Why not be someone you're actually okay showing me? Shiloh chuckled uncomfortably and searched for a way to explain himself to his former idol. I wouldn't have made you sad if I could have avoided it. I mean that. I thought I could at least finish this visit without issues. Jeremy wasn't someone I expected to call me out. That's pointless to him usually. But I'm not going to be someone whose personality revolves around making you happy. No matter how much I follow others, if it wasn't for them, every decision was mine. I couldn't be in charge, so being the sidekick was the best option for something I did for my sake. I chose to let people be the boss when it's what I need, and I choose where to stop it. And the best I can do for you now is spare you from dealing with that. I'm not as earnest as you are. I'm not as nice as you are. I was always like that, even as a kid. Back then, I wanted to fit in, even if it meant excluding someone else. If they were the odd one out, that'd mean I wasn't. Finding my place here got harder when Cove moved in. It was a good thing for everybody that I ended up moving myself soon after that. At least I'm admitting it now. I knew that's essentially how you were back then. You were a scaredy cat who wanted someone to defend you.
Jeez!
I simply imagined that in the past 10 years you grew out of that and learned how to speak to others like, I don't know, an actual grown-up human being. Well, in my defense, I'm not an adult yet. I won't be 18 till later this year in October. October 30th. Wait, no! Don't quit! You remembered. So did you, punk. Shiloh chuckled self-consciously as Liz smirked at him. There was even an affable moment before she became serious again. I liked you when we were kids. I wanted to know you now. That's what upset me the most. The idea that maybe you only wanted to be rid of your old friends.
Aw.
Lizzie, you're too good to need someone like me in your life. That's the truth. I'm not worth the effort. Except for with unusual people who have odd tastes. Then she straightened up in the stand, brushing her dress back out. That's an incredibly annoying thing to say. It's insane. You've only changed in stupid ways and stayed the same for the rest. That's fair. Is it? It means maybe I have unusual taste. You could have stuffed Shiloh's entire hat into his mouth with how wide he opened it. Really? Well, as much as a mother hen being compelled to look out for their chick, no matter how useless they are, is unusual, I can't help it. You haven't changed that much after...
You're welcome.
I brought you out here and I'm not going to abandon you. It has to be someone's job to look out for you and keep an eye on you. With her surety returning, she pulled herself off the ground and glowered down at Shiloh with her arms folded. Now, I do want an apology for everything done behind our backs when you could have opened up with all of what you just said. Yeah, I'd like an apology too, Shiloh. You should have given us a real chance or stayed home. This stunt was rude to me and Blue and Cove too. As if bringing the baby chick compromised to life, Shiloh dutifully did as he was told.
Sorry.
Sorry, Liz, Blue, Cove, everyone. I didn't want to cause problems or ruin the day. And you don't have to accept just because I'm saying it. Not everybody needs to like everyone. Alright then. You were kind of mean sometimes when we were kids, but I wasn't very nice to you either. All this recent stuff really isn't something to make about me, so I'm not gonna hold on to it. I mean, as long as I'm not gonna keep upsetting people from now on. Thanks, Cove. I'll try to avoid that in the future. He then changed his focus to you, his expression curious. He wanted to know where your feelings landed on him. Shiloh was being Shiloh, and all you could do was accept that he was going to be Shiloh.
Thank you.
Blue, do you want to stay for what's left of the evening? As you got to your feet, you thought about it. Yeah. A sly grin went across your face. Shiloh jumped to his feet, straightening his cap on the landing. Lynn would be so proud you didn't all leave. Cove rose as well, but with a groan. Another group mate?
Nope.
No, he's our group supervisor. He's also friends with my mom. And if you're all still wondering, that group is for people who have difficult to deal with attitudes. Jeremy and Nate being in it makes a lot of sense, huh? Shiloh spoke simply and finished his thought with a breezy shrug. Liz sighed loudly and then she smiled ruefully to him. Geez, Shiloh, you certainly made yourself other people's problems since leaving. Well, now you all know me better too. Thanks for sharing. A small smirk appeared on her face as she watched Shiloh. You didn't fail to notice the hint of sarcasm in her voice. And thank you, Blue. And accompanied by a warm smile, Liz's tone was sincere. Can I keep hanging out with everyone too? Sheepishly, Cove rubbed his arm. Liz's smile stretched into a grin at the news. Aw, thanks for sticking around. Well then, what now? The four of you stared at each other in silence until Shiloh tentatively made a suggestion. Would anyone want to build a sandcastle? That sounds ideal. Your older sister began to truly relax again. You were glad to see it. Glancing at Cove, he nodded in agreement with Liz. It's been a while since any of us did that together, huh? Let's do it. Then we're all agreed. Come on, gang, let's go play at the beach. The sun was far across the sky when the four of you trailed down from the park to the shore in comfortable silence. It was hard not to think back to how familiar it all felt. You never thought the four of you would ever be here again. It wasn't long before you were sitting on the wet ground, busily pushing as much sand as possible into a lump. You all worked together quietly, but every so often a chuckle would drift through because of the castle's lopsided development. At one point, Cove stretched his legs out completely and the incoming waves started to reach his toes. He initially was caught off guard and almost jumped into the castle, but ultimately didn't resist the water. After that, the group worked on with a purpose to finish before the ocean could tear it all down. Even Though, even still, Liz ended up taking time to be particular about the castle's rudimentary design. Shiloh, of course, backed up all her plans. Cove was a dissenting voice wanting to keep things more laid back. Things got pretty boisterous. But being there and doing this with Cove, Liz, and Shiloh, it felt weirdly different, yet weirdly the same.
So...
Oh, what happened with the amusement park? You were pretending not to know, weren't you? Both you and your sister glanced at Shiloh, silently re-asking the question. Under the weight of all three of you taking turns to ask about it, Shiloh finally gave in. I might have an idea of what he meant.
So...
The thing is, there's someone we're both familiar with, and she asked Jeremy to the amusement park one time. He accepted, but just complained about it. So I just suggested maybe he and her should go together. Jeremy also agreed that it'd be more fun to go around the park with me. That's what he meant when he said he was on my side. She went with him, and now Jeremy's embarrassed to admit that he was turned down, but that he was the preferred option then. It's hard to believe. Anyway, Jeremy could think that I'm mad I got passed over. But it doesn't matter if she said yes or no. All that counts is she knows I'm totally there when she needs it. And she does. Sure, Shiloh, you're so reliable. I know, right? Okay then, thanks for telling us.
You're welcome.
Smiling to yourself, you watched the three of them absorbed in the moment. It was nice, and you hoped everyone else was having just as much fun. It was sort of incredible that you were able to have another evening like this in your life. And the feeling of odd serendipity wasn't only with Shiloh, you had also gotten sort of closure with an old villain from that one summer long ago. Just like old times, the four of you stayed at the beach until night fell. The moon was high in the sky, then the time had come to say goodbye. Shiloh needed to get back to his mom, and back to where his life truly was now. Before leaving the beach, Shiloh pulled you aside and gave you his number in case you wanted to keep in touch. Liz already had it, though he wanted to give it to you personally. You weren't expecting that, but it was comforting to know that this didn't have to be a permanent goodbye. The four of you walked up to the neighborhood street as one, tired smiles covering familiar faces around you. The wind gently blew by, sand drugged behind you, and a hard-to-grasp feeling of contentment carried you through to the end of this road. It was a good night. After that, Shiloh disappeared from Sunset Bird once again, though this time it wasn't heartbreaking or hard to understand. This time, it was just another part of life. And it helped that Liz had her own phone and laptop that could easily check in on him from time to time. That was nice too. And wow, that one was long, but thank you all for joining me as we continued our playthrough of Our Life Beginning and Always, the Step 3 DLC. I will get to the other two parts of the DLC hopefully later this week, and be ready for Step 4 when it happens. Obviously, The Great Ace Attorney is taking up a lot of time for the channel. I'm trying to get through that game and the sequel game, and hopefully I can get through that this week. But I really wanted to get these last 3 episodes out for Our Life. I was actually pretty disappointed that I didn't get to them earlier, but there's been a lot of things going on this year. And so getting around to this, especially a game like this that requires so much clicking of the mouse. If you didn't know, I had injured my finger earlier this year in April. I damaged my finger, my right index finger at work. And trust me, computer work and video games were very difficult at that time. My finger is almost back to normal now, so I'm really happy to get back into the normal swing of playing video games for you guys. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you all on the flip side. Bye, everybody.